In this video, I'm going to talk about two concepts concerning color. One is value and one is saturation. We've already done a little bit of work with value when we did our gray tone scale, but this is the same idea applied to a particular hue or color. In this red hue, we have a series of values. So value is basically the amount of lightness or darkness in a color. So over here towards the right, we have a very light value of the red hue, and towards the left, we have a dark value of the hue. Another concept is referred to as saturation. So it's basically the intensity of a color. So when I look at this scale right here, on the top here, I have from the left side, dark values to light values, and these are just in grayscale. But as we move down, we start to see a change in the saturation. The further down in this row or this column, we see the most saturated hue within that gray scale. So this is the most saturated. And as we move our value to the right, the degree of saturation starts to diminish, and same thing with the left. But here in the center is where we have the most saturation for the color or the hue red. Now, when we did our grayscale studies, we were again working with the RGB color model, which basically has three channels, one for red, one for green, and one for blue. And when we made these all the same character, either 00, 0000, or let's say BB, 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 what we end up with is a gray tone scale. Okay, and that's because there are equal amounts in each of the three channels. Now, in this exercise, we're going to alter the values in one of the channels, and we'll see what effect that has on the color and the hue that is produced, the color, the hue, the value. Now I'm in the Illustrator file that I had been working on previously, and I created a copy of it. So it's actually not the same file, and I've called this one Values and Saturation. Now, I have a background in here only because as we get over here to the right, this one was not visible with the white background. There's two ways you could do this. You could either work with the same background, or you could click on that white and give it an outline. So right now the stroke says there's no outline basically, and I can go here and change it to, let's say, a black. I would recommend that you try to make it as small a point as possible. So drop it down to, I dropped it down to 1/4. I just want to be able to see that block with the background if the background was white. Now, the next thing I want to do is change the size of the artboard. So the artboard here is 17 inches wide by 1 inch high. To make a change to this, I'm going to close this because this is maybe how you see it on your screen. Click on the artboard tool, and then over here where the properties are, I'm going to open that, and I'm going to change this value here to 20. Okay, so you should see now that the artboard is much bigger, and I'm going to do Control minus, if you're doing a Mac, Command minus to see the entire artboard. Okay, now I have this background, this kind of pink color here, and I'm going to make this bigger. And again, your other way to do this would be to give an outline to the white that's on the far right, right? If you find this distracting, you can always click on it maybe and change its value a little bit so it's not so saturated or not so dark. Okay. Another thing to keep in mind, if you like, you could go over to where the layers are and you could turn off that background. You may find that's easier to work with this because you have a clearer reference to the grid. We're going to focus on the black. It's a furthest to the left, and I'm going to Control plus to zoom in a little bit. And I'll come over here to the left, maybe Control minus so I can see the top of the view here. Okay, now I'm going to start making copies of these rectangles that are completely black. So I'll select both the text and the rectangle, Control C, Control V. And what I'm going to do is I'm using the arrow keys to kind of move it around, and it's snapping to the grids. I'll do Control plus again so I can get in there a little closer and you can see better what I'm working on. And I'm going to move this down one more. All right, we got to fit 15 in there, so you need to make sure you need plenty of space. Control C, Control V. Once you have a few in there, you could begin to do 3 at a time. Control C, Control V. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 copies, and 9, and I'll do 12 and 15. And this is what it looks like after I've made all 15 copies. All right, now I'm going to start from the top here. And again, I'll zoom in. And I'm going to start editing these hex codes. Now, the way that the RGB color model works, if I change, I'm going to focus here on the red channel. Now, when you do this exercise, you're going to be choosing either the green channel, which is this 2 middle numbers, or the 2 on the right. That's the blue channel, so RGB. All right, so I'm going to click on this. And again, I'm going to modify the red channel. I'm going to double click on this color square over here, and I'm going to change it to FF and click on OK. All right, so here I have complete saturation, and I'm going to also, just to kind of keep things straight, change the text below it to that FF. Okay? And I'll go down the whole row, and I'm only going to change the red channel. And again, you're going to be working on either the green or the blue channel. So instead of FF0000, you're going to have 00 FF00 or 0000 FF. Okay. So I'm going to click on, oops. Double click here, switch it to the front, just double click over here, and then I'm going to change this one to EE. Okay, so you would do 00 EE 00 or 0000 EE. You can see maybe just slightly that the saturation has changed a little bit. So I had to restart my file here, so I'm going to go back and re-edit this text. Okay, and I'm just going to go down the entire row or column here and change it. You know, DD, CC, BB, AA. Okay, so I'll go ahead and continue making those changes. Okay, so I finished to AA, and now I'll continue down the column. The next one is going to be 990000, or in your case, 009900 or 000099. And I'll continue changing these. And it'll be 8877 6655 4433, etc., until I get down to 0, all 6 zeros. Okay, so I've completed that whole column. So you can see I go from super saturated down to a very dark value here of low saturation. And again, that means when these are all the same, that means I've got an equal distribution in all 3 channels. And this would be a good time to save your file so you don't lose your work. Next, I'm going to work off of the white. So its hex code is 6Fs. So I'll go ahead and make those 15 copies below this time instead of upwards. Okay, I've got my 15 copies and they're going down from the grayscale row. And I'm going to start the same process. But I think the best way to approach this would be to show you what's going to happen with the one at the bottom. So I've gone ahead and changed the color. I'm keeping the Fs all the same, but I'm changing the red channel to 00, in other words, no red. You may wonder, well, why did it turn this cyan color? If you remember when we were talking about this color model, it kind of works under this sort of assumption that light is controlling what you see, and that's why this color model is a digital tool. If I look at these 3 lights here, if I've got 3 lights with filters, one red, one green, one blue, if all of them are on and they overlap, I'm going to get white in the middle. If the red and the blue overlap and no red, I'm going to get cyan. So what you're seeing in this particular scale is the absence of red from the channel, and what's left are equal values of blue and green, and that's why these colors are going to appear the way that they do. So going back to my model here, or my values that are showing saturation, what I'm going to do is change the first the numbers of the red channel in a gradation 1 1 2 2 3 3 4 5, etc. And then from the top, I'll change this one to EE, DD, C, BA, etc. So we should see this shift from white to cyan and all the values in between. So I've completed all of this column, and as you can see, I've got more saturation here towards the bottom and a lightening of the value as we go up towards white. And I've zoomed in a little bit so you can sort of see. So in your case, you will have, for this one example, either FF, AA, FF, or 4 Fs followed by AA. So the colors that are being produced are going to be different than what you see here on the screen. This would be a very good time to save your file. So we could fill in this entire scale, and it would take on a shape that looks like a triangle at the top and then a triangle at the bottom. So if I was to draw a line here to sort of illustrate that, it would be like from here to here would be filled with columns from here to here, etc. Like this. Now, I'm only going to ask you to choose one along here to use as the model for how this works. But keep in mind that I'm still going to have 15 copies of whatever grayscale value I have here. But if I'm working on this one that's just to the left of the white, I'm only going to have 1 block above and 14 below. So if I move over one more, I'd have 2 above and 13 below, 3 above, 4 above, 5 above, etc. So you just want to choose one of these grayscales to work from in order to repeat the same process of applying the change in channel numbers to produce different effects. So I'm going to work from this one that's the 6As. So I will go ahead and start making copies of these. Oops. Control C, Control V. And I'll begin placing these above, following the same pattern. Okay, so that would be B, and now this one is C. This one is D. And this is F. And I'll go ahead and make the adjustments to these following the same pattern. So you can see I've gone ahead and changed the text below and changed the colors assigned to each of those rectangles. So you should see this kind of gradation of color. And I had to make a little correction there, but this is how these should appear, at least in case of the red channel. So yours will be different because you'll be using either the green or the blue channels. And I'll go ahead and repeat that process for the rectangles that will be dropping below the 6A hex code rectangle. So I've completed the ones above. I've got 5 above, and that means there'll be 10 below. So again, if I had chosen this particular gray tone, I would have 6 above and 9 below. So now I can go ahead and begin changing the color codes for this group right here. So now I finished changing the text and also changing the hues for those 10. And to kind of show you what this whole thing looks like, I'll zoom out. And this concludes the work for this assignment.